Welcome to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James. We believe that the relationship between a dad and daughter is one of the most important relationships in a woman's life. Our mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by spreading the voices of girl dads to the world and give love and support to all of our dads and their daughters. Let's get to it. Let's tune in. All right. Welcome to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. I am your host, Earnest James, and I believe that the relationship between a dad and his daughter is one of the most important relationships in a woman's life. So our mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by spreading the voices of girl dads to the world in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. So thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you listen, like, subscribe, and share, and follow us on all of our social media platforms. Also, make sure that you guys are checking us out on our new YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. It's the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube, which is our new YouTube channel, where you can find the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, as well as our partner podcast, which is the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Both of those can be found on the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube, which is our podcasting channel. So make sure that you guys hit us up there. Also, our product of the week. As you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase. And so this week, our product of the week is our purpose journal, as well as our purpose planner, because we believe that you should journal in order to keep track of where you've been and where you are, as well as plan for your future. So you can get your copy of our purpose journal and our purpose planner on Amazon. The links are in the descriptions, and also make sure you check out the descriptions because there's so much other great information that we have there down there that you can check out. So make sure that you guys do that. But today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Mr. Daryl. How you doing?
Doing great, Ernest. Good to be here, sir.
Good. First of all, let me say thank you for being here, because you could have been anywhere else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and we definitely appreciate it. So Daryl, we're going to jump right in this thing. Do me a favor. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Absolutely. My name is Daryl Dudley, and I am the husband of one wife, Gidget. I have one daughter, Daria, and one son. They're both in their 30s, and I have 5 grandchildren. 3 of them are girls, and just try to enjoy every minute I can have with them. The work I do is I'm the chief visionary officer of an organization called She's My Daughter. And our thought is that if every man would treat every woman with the same respect and dignity that he would want for his own daughter, we could eradicate violences against women, such as human trafficking, domestic violence, and sexual assault.
Man, I love that, Daryl. And we definitely, I want to jump and learn a little bit more about that. And I'm definitely going to ask you about it. And definitely to my listeners, we're going to have Daryl on the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast to really dive deeper into that. So when you guys finish watching this episode, especially if you're on our YouTube channel, just switch right over to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast and look for Daryl's episode there, where we dive more into what he does and the mission behind his organization, because I think that's very important. So we're definitely going to dive more into that. But here on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, we really want to talk about our own relationships with our daughters as girl dads, and really dive deeper into that. And as you mentioned, you got granddaughters, and I do too, you know what I mean? So now it's like that next generation of girl dad, right? Once we get into the grandkids. So Daryl, my first question is a question I ask all my dads. What does it mean for you personally to be a girl dad?
You know what? It means everything. I remember growing up, I was the second of 7 children, and so there were 3 girls and 4 boys in our family. And I just remember how my father interacted with his daughters in a very protective sense, in a gentle yet protective sense. And for me, I took cues from him and did the same thing with my daughter, and she's just absolutely special to me. At first I thought I wanted to have all boys have a basketball team or something like that. But God blessed me with a daughter, along with my son. And I can remember when she first came out of the hospital. And it almost brings back tears in my eyes. It's been 30 years ago. But I remember when she came out, and I was just so joyful, so happy to have a baby girl that I could protect, that I could nurture, that I can sow seeds of affirmation into her life, man. It's nothing like having her. And we I have the blessing and the fortune to, always have remained close to her. I know all fathers don't necessarily have that opportunity for
Yeah.
whatever reason, a myriad of reasons, but I'm just so grateful to God that I've always been very, very close to her.
Yeah, yeah. And what's your daughter's name? Because I always forget to ask.
Absolutely. It's Daria. So, of course, my name is Daryl. A little play off that, Daryl, and my wife's middle name was Maria. Put those two together, we got Daria.
I love it. I love it. So, and you talked a little bit about it. One of my next questions was just that experience. So, here's one question: was your son born first, or was your daughter your first child?
Son was born first, daughter was second.
Okay. So daughter saying, okay, so as a father, you're already on this journey as a father with a son, but then now you come home, and you start this new journey, as a girl dad, which is totally different, from having a son, right? And you talked a little bit about it, but let's just go a little bit more. How was that experience when, and I'll go back. Let me go back before we even go there, right? So when we're talking about becoming a girl dad, how did you even find out that you guys, that you were going to be a father again for the second time because you already had your son? And then did you guys wait to find out, the sex of the baby, so you found out she was, it was going to be a girl later, or was that something that you guys, found out in beforehand?
Yeah, so we found out beforehand. I'm not a person that can do a lot of waiting. I think the itching got to me, and I was like, I got to know what the sex is going to be. So we found out, pretty early on that she was going to be a girl, and I was just completely excited about that.
Yeah, yeah. So how was that experience, coming home after she's born, or and I wouldn't necessarily even say coming home, but maybe even still in the hospital, after she's born, and now you're here holding this baby girl, and kind of realizing that this is going to be a whole new journey, So kind of how was that situation for you, to taking that all in, and even bringing her home for the first time, and really realizing like, okay, now it's all on me. Like the doctors is gone, the nurses is gone, and now it's just us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I tell you what, Ernest, it was scary, to be honest with you, in this sense that my son, he was 3 at that point. So, we had done a lot of, wrestling and rough and tumble stuff as a boy. But I'm sitting there holding my girl, and I'm realizing she's so precious, right? And so delicate. And there were times I was scared to hold her. I was thinking I was going to drop her. Was I holding her too tight? I just wanted to be extra careful with everything with her. And so that was a big part of our experience in the hospital, but also a big part of our experience as I first came home. I had to be extra, extra careful and realize that this was a girl and not a rough and tumble boy, if you would.
Yeah, yeah. So I like to think about, because you said your daughter is much older now. So I know you've been through all the stages, and the teenage stage, and the or terrible twos and teenage, and then going up from there. What is something, probably in the younger ages, that probably was just like a monumental moment that you had with your daughter at a young age, that's kind of was just like something that you always remember?
Yeah, I think when she was really, really young, She did a lot of the normal things that normal kids do, of course, in school, she was in soccer. That was always a joy to see her kick a ball around, these little 2 and 3 year olds doing their best to score a goal. And that was really special and precious to me. Also, I'm a musician as well. I'm a piano player. And I remember there was a real special moment where she actually started playing the violin. And
Mm.
so she was playing a couple songs, and they had a special talent show at our church, and we got the opportunity to play together. That was just really, really special right there. She didn't continue on playing it, but I still got those pictures and also those memories. And
Yeah.
out of all the people I've ever played with, that was one of my favorite to ever join her on stage and play a duet with her. And so
Yeah.
that was special. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. How old was she at that time?
Probably around 8 years old. Yeah, around 8 years old.
Oh man, yeah, really young. I remember my daughter, my daughter still talks about this. My daughter's 22. We were at church and we had a special service, and I think I had to speak that day, and I had her. I don't know if you remember the cartoon. I'm sure it's an animated series. It probably still come on the Veggie Tales.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Oh
and so that was one, and I don't really even remember, but it was one little song that came off VeggieTales, and she had learned it and everything. And I was like, all right, you will sing, sing the little VeggieTales song before I speak,
yeah.
And I remember having her, and she kind of we rehearsed it and everything, and she was cool with it. But when we got up there to do it, she kind of started crying. I'm like, come on, we can do it. And I walked her through it, and now as an adult, she still brings that up, like, oh no, you made me do it. I said, I didn't make you do it. Like we practiced like a whole week or so, and you were so
Right.
excited. But then, when you got up there on the stage, it changed it to something else. She was like, no, I don't think I ever wanted to do it. I said, no, you was the song at home and everything. But yeah,
It-
man, that's that
it's
just
funny.
brought me to my memory.
It's funny how we can sometimes remember things differently,
Yeah.
have a different recollection.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So one of the questions that I want to ask also, and especially now that with your daughter being an adult, when we look back on as a father and as a girl dad, we're always, pointing to our daughters and teaching them different things. But we find out as we go along that they're teaching us stuff too. So in your recollection, what would probably be a lesson that your daughter has taught you?
One of the things my daughter, she's very humble, but also very determined. If she puts her mind to something, it is going to happen. It doesn't make a
Mhm.
difference if she has to stay up all night, for days on end. If she has to get up early in the morning, if she has to pursue it by going different places, she is so determined to make whatever she sets her mind to happen. And I think that's been a real encouragement to me. At times, she makes me feel lazy with what she goes about doing. But that is one of the biggest things, her ability to have stick to itiveness to something. That would be number one. But also her ability to be resilient in the midst of challenges. Number two, she was in the hospital a lot as a young child with various issues. And I used to tell people that, all the doctors at Children's Hospital here in DC knew us by first name because we were in there so much. And she had 4 or 5 different surgeries, which were absolutely heart wrenching to me, to have your baby girl going in. But every time she bounced back with greater levels of strength, greater levels of resilience. And, I just marveled at her and her ability to come back despite those challenges. And even, she's 30 years old now, having gone through relationship challenges and various other things. But just to bounce back and to always have a spirit of hope and joy and resilience and encouraging others to be the best that they can be, even if they go through challenges. So those two things right there are really huge areas that have been things that coach me and help me to be a better man.
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned about you know those things helping you to become a better man, a better father. And I always think about, things that um, maybe we could have done different or better, right? And so one of the things I had the opportunity to do this year, which is something that I have been talking about, is we did our first daddy daughter dance, right? And we were able to have our very first daddy daughter dance, and the plan is to have them annually, to do them every year. But the reason behind that was because when my daughter was younger, she had her first daddy daughter dance, and I had to work, and I was like, all right, well, I'll catch the next one, and there never was the next one. My daughter is 22 now, and so I felt like I missed that opportunity. And even though afterwards we had plenty of other things that we did together, and I don't think it made a difference to her, but it always was something that stuck with me, that I had missed that opportunity. And so for us to be able to have our very first daddy daughter dance, in connection with the Girl Dad Discussions podcast this year was a great thing, and I'm very pleased to say that. But that being said, looking back on that, one of the things I always ask is there anything that, as a dad, as a girl dad, and you look back on some of the things that you did, is there anything that you look now and like, what, I could have did that a little differently. I could have did that one a little better. And the reason why I ask, because I want this podcast to be entertaining, yes, as we share our stories with our daughters, but also a learning point for other girl dads that are still on that journey. Like I said, my daughter's 22, your daughter's 30 now, so we're kind of on the other end of raising our daughters, which it never stops. You know what I mean? The journey never stops. It just changes a little bit. But then we still have dads that are still trying to get to this point. So I definitely like to, leave them with advice and things along the way that will help them in their journey. So is there anything that you can think of that, when you look back on some of the things that may have transpired, or you may have done with your daughter over the years, that was probably like, I could have did that a little bit better, or if I could take that back and change it a little bit, I would do that.
Yeah, you know what? I think back and I tried to be at everything that she had, every event that she had, every, sports or music, or she's having the fashion, anything that she had. I tried to do my best to be there. But one thing I did realize, Ernest, is this whole idea of sometimes we don't think the children are always listening to us, right? We say
Mhm.
things and they might give off a vibe that they could care less. But I've realized over the years they are listening to us and they will give us cues here. In this stage of the game, we're like, I had no idea you heard you were listening to me, or you actually took it to heart what I said, or it actually sunk down in. But so many times that happens, we don't even realize it. And so probably the thing I regret most of all is that there might have been times I could have said some more things that were positive. Not that I said, a bunch of negative things to her, but I could have been even more positive, even more affirming to her, to her spirit. And I might have missed those chances that, you'll never get back. I'm grateful again that
Mhm.
we have a solid relationship. But if there were times that I could have said something more positive and more encouraging, or boosted her in a certain way, or encouraged her to stick with something or do something. That's what I really think about and I regret and I miss that.
Yeah,
Some of those opportunities. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So on the flip side of that, what is something that you did, or experience you guys may have had, that may have to tap yourself on the back a little bit of like, yeah, I did a good job with that one.
Yeah, I think in terms of having them experience different opportunities in life, my daughter and my son, but just to be a part of different things and different cultures and different activities. Um, they always used to. They still laugh at this. My children laugh at the fact that I took them to a bluegrass concert at the Kennedy Center in D.C. And I think I was the only black guy here that really loved bluegrass music for whatever reason. And
Yeah.
we always joke about the songs that were sung there, and still to this day. But trying to broaden their horizon, broaden their experience, so they can see different things in life, experience different people. and just enjoy the variety that God has placed here on this earth with people and also with various different experiences as well. And so that's one thing I probably could pat myself on the back for.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, opening
Yeah,
up opportunities for them.
yeah, and I think that's a big one too. I had a friend of mine recently. I went kayaking for the first time
Oh,
not too long ago, and I had a friend of mine look at me and say, "You're a real interesting dude." I'm like, "Not really. I'm just trying to expand." You know what I
yeah,
mean? Try to get
sure.
step outside of the normal box that we put ourselves in. A lot of times as a culture,
Yep.
it's like, "Oh, we don't do that." Like, do we? You know what I mean? Like I started hiking last year and found realized I loved that and met a group of people that I started hiking with, and actually from that group was the same group that we went kayaking with.
Oh, wow.
But it's like before I found that group, it was like black people don't hike, and it was like, do we? You know what I'm saying? And I just happened to come across them and was like, oh, and really dived into it because I knew it was something that I enjoyed,
Sure.
but I was usually a loner because it was just me. And so when I came across, these people that I ended up, becoming friends with and hiking with, I was like, I found my space,
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing that we are constantly, not only exploring new things ourselves and stepping out the box ourselves, but exposing our children to, out the norm and outside of the box again that we put ourselves in, just like, making those general comments of black people don't do this and we don't do that. And it's like, actually we do,
Oh, yeah.
and if we get out of our own way, you know what I mean, we could enjoy so much more in our lives. So yeah, I think that was cool. That I haven't been to a bluegrass concert, but I think it would probably be interesting.
Got to try it, man. You got to try it, man.
I don't even know. I'm here in the Chicagoland area, so I don't even know if they have something like that. I'm not too far from Indiana, so I know probably
Sure.
a
Oh,
little
yeah.
further down in Indiana, they probably have some of those concerts going on. I want to change it up just a little bit though, because one of the things, is one thing to be a girl dad, but then it's another thing to be a granddad, girl dad, right? I have two beautiful granddaughters, um, and I tell you, it's a whole nother, no, whole nother story, a whole nother experience. Being a granddad, to young girls. And so, in your experience with your granddaughters, how has that experience been? And even more, how has it been a little different with, being that figure to your granddaughters than differently from being the father figure to your daughter?
Yeah, man, great question. One of the things with grandchildren, especially the young ones, right? You have to re-up your energy levels to be able to keep up with them. But man, I just enjoy them. I enjoy playing with them. I'm a big jokester and just joking and just having fun and spending actual time and realizing that God allows these opportunities for us to impart the life experiences that we've had. The ideas of hope and joy that you could flow that from generation to generation. Um, my kids would probably say I'm a lot more lenient on my grandkids, or they probably look at me the things that I might let them do or allow them to do. And they're like, "Who is this guy? Right? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
They're not the same guy we do." But it's just a little bit different interacting with them. But for me, it's about how can I take every opportunity to spend time with them and show up in their lives, show up in their activities, in their gymnastics. One of them is in gymnastics pretty heavily, and the other one's a
Mhm.
little bit young to be in a lot of activities. But just trying to connect with them in the most significant way possible because um, it's so powerful, and society in many ways is trying to tell us otherwise. But it's so powerful for men to engage in the lives of those women around them, their daughters, their granddaughters. There's so many things that fathers can impart that mothers can't necessarily. We work as teams to get this thing right. but there's so many things that we're endowed to impart to them, man. And we should take it as a joy and a privilege to be able to be a part, an active part of their lives.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it. You mentioned about um being instrumental in, the women in your life just as a whole, and I think that kind of reflects on the work that you do with your organization. So before we switch gears a little bit to the second part of the podcast, I want to talk a little bit more about, your organization and the work that you do there. So kind of reiterate a little more with the, what's the organization and the purpose behind it, the mission of it, and even how did you, what motivated you to even start that organization?
Absolutely. Yeah. So our organization, She's My Daughter, we originally started about 12 years ago. And it really came, I was inspired by the Lord. I've always had a good connection with people as an encouragement person.
Mhm.
Always wanted to see people be hopeful. I wanted to see people laugh. Um, I wanted to see people just feel encouraged in life in general. And so the Lord showed me women in a way to, especially women who had been um, violated. And I kept coming in contact with women who have been violated in various ways and began to think, what does their life look like because they went through a particular atrocity? And I
Mhm.
had this example that I use when I do my public speaking. I'll take a vase, a glass vase, and put it in. First of all, I'll have men write the names of their daughters or their wives or nieces and put those on the vase on sticky tabs. I'll take the vase and put it within a pillowcase, and I'll slam the pillowcase down on the ground, and then I'll take all the glass and put it on the table, put it on the floor, so you can see all the broken glass there. And my communication is so powerful in that moment because I'm iterating to them that this is what happens when women are violated. We can take the time to put the pieces back together, and certainly we can, but there's still going to be some scratches, going to be some scars that last until they go on to the other side, if you will. And so I really have a sense of what that might feel like after having talked to so many different women and having so many women that I know personally who have gone through situations like that, inappropriate behavior, rape, domestic violence. I've met human trafficking survivors, which has got to be one of the greatest atrocities known to man. And so, Ernest, what I felt is a mandate from God that we men, if we stand up on behalf of women, if we use our voices on their behalf, we can make a change in their lives. If we create a culture, a reverse peer pressure, if you will, that disrespecting, dishonoring women is a thing of our past, we can make a change in the lives of women from here on out. And I believe that we do have the power to be able to do that if we take action and activity. I reach out specifically to men and to fathers because you, as a father, know you do anything for your daughter, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
anything, I always joke. I was talking to my pastor. I said, listen, if someone laid a hand on my daughter, I can't tell what I would turn into. I'd be like the Incredible Hulk. I say, I
Mhm.
hope the church has a prison ministry available for whatever might happen to me. But we have that intensity towards our daughters, right? And we don't even have to, Ernest, you know this, we don't even have to work on that intensity. A
Mhm.
marriage, you have to work on. Job relationships, you have to work on. A daughter relationship, it is automatic. Um, my daughter can do about anything, and that's not going to change our relationship just
Mhm.
because of how that relationship is. So my thought was, what if we take that same protection, right, and look at every woman as somebody's daughter,
Mhm.
treat her with the dignity and respect that she absolutely deserves. And so that's the goal of our organization. And what we do, we give practical applications of kindness to women survivors in shelters and safe houses with the distinct purpose of wanting women to know there are good men out here who want to honor and value them. but we also have special initiatives for young girls as well, because what happens, the more self-esteem that they have, the less likely they are to fall prey to predators, often online. And so we know that we can still strength within them. They'll be less likely to fall into these lifestyles that are absolutely atrocious. And so that's our organization. That's what we do. Sometimes it's daunting because we like this whole sex trade industry is so big right now. They say in several years it'll be the largest criminal activity in the world. Men are taking girls and trafficking them, and you can make $100,000 a year with one girl. So you can imagine how hard it is to crack these particular cartels, I call them. But we want to do our best to make things different so that one day women can move about the world without fear of violence. I want that for my daughter. I know you do as well, brother.
Yeah, yeah, man, I love that so much. And we definitely have to connect and see what we can do together, some work together. Because I was even listening to how you were saying that, even that the whole concept of it kind of came to you, probably downloaded, from God. And I think about even this podcast, right? To going back to, again, to my listeners who've heard this story before, you're gonna hear it again. Uh, but going back to how I even got started in the podcast space was I found myself going through a transition, actually going through a divorce, and I started looking at my dating history, and I realized that every woman I've ever dated was a fatherless daughter, and so that connected with me to try to figure out what could I do as a person to help fatherless daughters, and so I started a page on Instagram called Friends of Fatherless Daughters. And I just began to give my advice as a girl dad, as a man being in a relationship with fatherless daughters, as a brother to five sisters who was raised in a household with my mom and my dad and watching my dad raise my sisters. So just taking all that in consideration and began to give my advice to fatherless daughters. And I was contacted by a young lady and asked would I like to be on her podcast. And at that time, I had never been on a podcast, I'd never done a podcast, but I agreed to do it. And I did it. And then after that one, I ended up doing like 7 more podcasts right after that, and had the opportunity to sit down for lunch with a host of one of those podcasts that I had been on. And he was like, I think you should have your own podcast. And, fast forward now to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast is we're hitting on 200 episodes, and then even to come back to, where it started with the Girl Dad Discussions podcast to, talk about that dad and daughter relationship. We're now hitting on 50 something episodes with this podcast. And so, yeah, so that connection with dads and daughters, and men and women, just to put it directly that way, I think is very important. And I definitely want us to do something together, podcast, organization. I don't know what we can do, whatever we figure it out, but I definitely, find the heart and the meaning behind your organization and want to be a part of that. And we'll figure that out. So to my audience, you guys just keep an eye out. We're gonna do something. We'll figure something out. But real quickly, I want to transition now into the second half of the podcast, which is called the Getting to the Core segment, right? And so the Getting to the Core segment is a segment that I started based off of the ebook that I wrote called The Core Four. And the Core Four, which is the 4 core values that every daughter should get from her father. And those values are guidance, affirmation, love and affection, and protection. And so, Daryl, when we think about, just as a father yourself, and we think about those 4 values, of those 4, which one would probably be the most important to you? I definitely know all of them are important, but which one would probably be the most important to you that you want to make sure that you instilled in your daughter?
Wow. That's a great question, man. It's a hard one.
Yeah.
Because all of them are so important. One that really sticks out to me is this whole idea of affirmations.
Mhm.
Um, because we are all going to go through something, right? And our daughters need our voices in their ears so that when challenging times come, they might say, hey, the world is against me. My boyfriend disrespected me. My job is not the place that I want to be. But my daddy gave me some words some years ago that I'll never forget. And that is going to be what takes me through this storm. That's going to be what takes me through the storms that shall come further on in life. And so that's a huge thing. There's nothing like words, right? If
Yeah.
we as believers, we can think the world was created by God's breathing, right? He said some
Mhm.
words, and that is so absolutely powerful. We know there's power in the tongue. And so that our ability to give positivity, strong words of affirmation into the lives of our daughter is a huge thing that we all need to put at the top of our priority list.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it. So, Daryl, the book is called The Core Four, which is the four values. But if there could be a fifth value that you can add that you think it would be important for dads to also instill in their daughters, what would that fifth value be?
I think it would be resilience. Uh, uh, Resilience. And the best way that resilience is taught is not verbally, but by our actions. And when our daughters see us going through challenges, which they will,
Mhm.
because we can't hide all of them,
Right.
um, they will see what it takes to go through challenging situations. Keep your head up, keep your chest out, stay strong, knowing that there's going to be a better future after this. That is a huge thing because we're all going to go through struggles and problems. And we
Mhm.
need to have resilience to help us move to that next place in life.
I love it. I love it. Daryl, man, I really appreciate you being on, man, and coming on and share your story and your relationship with your daughters, man, your advice. I want you to leave us with a word of advice or motivation. How do you feel, for our daughters and our dads, how it feels it moves you to do so. And also leave us with, your social media handles and where we can find you and even reach out to kind of follow your organization and things of that nature. I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Make sure you guys are following us on our main website, or should I say my main website, which is the dealhealfulfill.org website. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org. We will be doing a overhaul of the website at some point. But that's what it is, dealhealfulfill.org, because our mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with our problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. So make sure you guys are checking us out there. Also, we talked about the Core 4 ebook, but we also have a ebook called From Males to Men, which is a male mentoring ebook. And I also have another ebook that I'm very proud of, is Forgiving Me, the 4-step guide to self-forgiveness, that is very big right now and doing great things. So you guys can check out all of the ebooks that I've written that are available at ebooksbyejames.com. I made it real simple. Again, ebooksbyejames.com. You guys can go there and check out the other ebooks, as well as get your copy of the Core 4, which is the 4 core values that every daughter should get from her father. Also, our inspirational t-shirt line, deal2healtees.com. Let's deal the number 2 healtees.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our tagline. Make sure you guys go there and check out our inspirational tees that we have available, including our podcast merch, which is our t-shirts with our logos on, our podcast logos on it. There's one for the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, and then also one for the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. So make sure you guys are checking that out as well. Last but not least, over the last couple of years, I've been blessed to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And one of the things that we do, we have free virtual workshops bi-monthly discussing the topic of forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, forgiveness of the world, just really doing a deep dive into the world of forgiveness and what it means to forgive. The the workshops are absolutely free, but the information is priceless. You guys definitely want to check that out. You can go to forgivenessmission.com to sign up for our next workshop, or you can go to Eventbrite and look up the forgiveness workshop sponsored by the Forgiveness Mission. Again, these the workshops are absolutely free, but the information is priceless. So whenever you're listening to this podcast, either a workshop just ended or there's one coming up. So make sure you go to Forgiveness Mission in order to sign up for our next forgiveness workshop. Daryl, once again, I want to say thank you for being on. Thank you for taking out the time to share your experience as being a girl dad, man, and definitely love what you're doing. So I want you to have the last word. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Brother E, for having me on. And you might not know the complete value of what your work is doing and what it has done in the lives of people. I'm just excited that I got to be able to connect with you, and I know that we'll be able to do some great works here in the future because we have some of the same value systems. I want to just encourage every father who's doing a good job to do it even better. Whatever you're doing, find ways. Brother Ernest here has some books, some resources for you to be a better dad and a better person. I wanted to say to you that it's worth the investment to be the best dad you can. Yes, you'll make some mistakes, but it's something powerful to see, or for a daughter to see when her dad has made some errors, that he keeps going. He keeps pressing his way. He keeps trying. He keeps striving to be a better man. And I want to also give a word out to all those fathers who are estranged from your daughters. They need you. They want you. They want to be in relationship with you. Even for our brothers, if this gets into a jail cell, you might have shame. You might have a desire for your daughter not to see you in this particular position, but she still needs you. And your voice can be absolutely valuable in her life. So I want to encourage all good dads to get better, all those who are estranged to make a reconnection. We're here for you. We have actually a program called the Reconnect, where we work with fathers to reconnect with their daughters if there has been some estrangement, and even going into the prisons to help those dads make positive connections, writing letters, doing those things that the daughter that will endear their daughters to them. Thank you so much, Brother Ernest. You all can reach me at our social media, she's with a dot, my with a dot, and then daughter. That's our Instagram tag. And of course, our website is www.shesmydaughter.com. Thank you so much, my brother.
No problem. No problem. We can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for joining the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, where our mission is to amplify the voices of girl dads to the world in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. So until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our podcast on all your podcast listening platforms. Also, don't keep it to yourself, but share it with someone else that the Girl Dad Discussions podcast is on the air. Until next time, be blessed.